All right, with the Avengers making over $2 billion worldwide, you didn't think a studio would take that sitting down, did you? No. Warner Brothers has its own collaboration superhero movie, Justice League, coming out in a few weeks. So let's look at the first step into this collaboration franchise when they rebooted Superman. Now, before you click away, don't worry, I'm not talking about the 2006 dumpster fire that was Superman Returns. No, I'm talking about the 2013 Man of Steel and what it talks about. The values, the beliefs, the principles, and the political warnings that it gives us. Basically, how Superman is the true American hero that we need right now, and how we should hope they carry these same values and principles over into the future movies and Justice League. Now, Man of Steel was directed by Zack Snyder and starred Henry Cavill as the iconic American hero, Clark Kent, aka Superman, even though Henry Cavill is not actually American. Don't worry, I'm sure the next James Bond and 007 will be cast as American. No, I'm kidding, that'll never happen. But in all seriousness, Henry Cavill did a great job. Now, the movie was made for $230 million. I mean, that's an insane amount of money. Like, really, it should have been a good movie at that point. It made over $668 million at the box office, so it did pretty well. Now, important side note, this movie, when it was released, got a 55, like half, from critics in Hollywood. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, the critic review was 55, but the viewers gave it a 75. When this happens, especially if you're a moviegoer, you should go check it out. If the viewers like it, most likely you're gonna like it, and there's a reason why the critics didn't like it as much. I'm gonna give this movie a 4 to 5. Now, I know this film can be boring in some places, and one of the reasons for this is the use of flashbacks. This happens in a lot of origin stories. We have to cover a lot of time, introduce a lot of characters and backstory, so they keep flashing back and back and back, and it distracts from the audience, making it feel even slower than it normally would be. However, I do not think this takes away from the movie as a whole. It is beautifully shot. I mean, the color correction, the selection, the scenes, I mean, it is magnificent. It's big, it's beautiful. It also gets extremely intimate, well shot. Well colored, and I got to give a shout out to the real MVP of this whole movie, Hans Zimmer, who did the score. I mean, it is unbelievable, the emotion and introspection you feel listening to this movie. You sense what every character is feeling, and you could close your eyes and almost watch this movie and know what's happening. It's a tremendous score. Now, let's get into the politics of why I think this movie also got a bad score. The perfect example of this is when you get to see Krypton in the beginning of the film. You get to see a once flourishing society being destroyed because of the people and the beliefs and the way that they've run this new world for a long time. A formerly blooming society now being destroyed. Warning much? Maybe. Krypton introduced population controls for its species and predetermined roles for everyone living. And they did this years ago for unknown reasons. Can't imagine a good one. Communism much? A little bit. And whatever they did didn't work because the planet is dying, about to implode, and the politicians and the government are doing nothing. They are at a gridlock because of the organization, and nothing is going to get done in this society because of the way it's been set up. Now, because of this, one of the predetermined roles was obviously to protect the country. General Zod is in charge of protecting the people at all costs. He forms a coup where he's going to overthrow the government because they're not doing enough. They're not sacrificing what needs to be sacrificed. They're not doing what needs to be done to preserve the people. As you can tell, if he was going to succeed in this coup, it would probably be a very fascist dictatorship government where people are very expendable, maybe even North Korean-ish. I mean, it would have been bad. Basically, politicians trying to control people's lives ruin the entire world in this flourishing civilization. Yeah, good warning. Now, Jor-El. Jor-El is Clark's father. He is in charge of science in the country. And when Jor-El's talking about these predetermined roles that he thinks destroyed pretty much the country, he says, what if a child aspired to be something greater? What if they had this freedom to choose? Because this, whatever we've done, is not working with our society. It's going to destroy itself. And we need to go back to what made us great. We need to establish these liberties and freedoms again, and yada, yada, yada. Here's what the plot thickens. So Jor-El and his wife have the first natural-born child, the first child that wasn't predetermined to be born in centuries, and they are going to send his child to Earth by himself because he knows the government's not doing anything about it, the planet is lost, and what Zod is going to do is going to still enslave and destroy people and their whole culture. So he sends his son with all the hopes and ambitions of their entire race with them to Earth, to America, to literally the heart of America, Kansas, where this can actually happen. America. So to sum it up, communism is awful and politicians ruin everything. All right. Now, as a moviegoer, blue-collar American, you're going to love this movie because of the values as well as the action adventure that go along with Superman. So I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5 for my viewer review. For one, the special effects are great. I mean, you really get to feel like you're Superman flying in this movie, and the action's great. It's not just a guy zipping around saving cats. You get to see a war in this giant landscape. What would happen if these two titans, you know, these two super beings did collide, and the battles that ensue. It's great. It's really fun to watch. Now, one of the reasons you care so much for Clark are because of the values that he has, that were endowed by his tremendous parents and the family values they have. It was a great family nucleus in the movie that I think is lost in a lot of films. Now, Kevin Costner gives one of the best performances I've seen in a while as Clark's father, as he tries to help Clark live with this burden and the responsibility of it, to try to instill these values, not by forcing it on him, but he living it out himself and hoping his son will follow in those footsteps. Martha Kent, played by Diane Lane, who also gives a great performance, does a similar thing, and it's great to see them coming together, and you see her really care for her sons, you care for him. It's great. It's like one of the main reasons why you like Clark so much. And Clark is reluctant to use these incredible powers because he feels like he could take advantage or hurt somebody in the process. He really wants to live those values that were instilled by his parents. A simple example of this is Clark has refused to use his powers for a long time to defend himself in a bunch of other situations. However, he does use his powers to save a bus that is going underwater, and he lifts it out. And one of the guys on the bus is this bully that's been terrorizing Clark for years. And this changes the bully's entire life, because now he realizes that he undeservingly was spared and forgiven by Clark, who could have just destroyed him at any moment. And it changes his life forever. Now let's get into some of the personal politics of this movie, and stop me if this bothers you in the past too, because this drives me nuts when this happens in movies. And that's when people impress their importance over others. Now let me give you an example of this. Helping the poor is one of the most noble and amazing and aspiring things you can do for someone. To give your time, your wealth, and your influence to help someone you see in need is completely admirable and honorable and amazing. What is not so honorable is when you decide someone needs help and you tell the government to force everyone else around you, everyone that you disagree with, at gunpoint, that you need to take all their money and all their time, their resources to get to whoever you deem is necessary of these funds, because it makes you feel better while you do nothing. It seems pretty self-grandizing and selfish to do that when the person's right in front of you. Okay, now Lois Lane has one of these scenes in the movie, and it drives me nuts when this happens. This happens all the time in different movies. In the movie, General Zod gives a warning and an edict to everyone on Earth saying that it's harboring one of his citizens, which technically it is, and if they don't say where Clark is, then he's going to destroy the planet and everyone on it. Everyone's going to die. Lois knows where he is, and she refuses to tell Zod because she likes the guy. They've met a few times, and she's like, it's worth sacrificing everyone's life, the entire human race, because of my principles, because I think everyone else should suffer, because I like this guy. I don't know. It really doesn't sit well with me, and it happens in movies all the time. We're like, no, I mean, I don't think Clark would want this, first of all, and it's his choice, really. And that's what kind of gives me a problem, because I hate when people make choices for other people. However, this gives her a great chance to virtue signal on the entire planet. Now, in contrast, Clark's role model, his father, believes Clark should be careful with his powers until he's old enough and wise enough and has the experience to handle the responsibility and be able to discern when he should use it and who he should use it for. He believes this so much that he gives his own life to give his son that opportunity. In a scene in the movie, Clark's father is in peril, he's about to die, and he refuses to let Clark help him because he didn't want Clark to show his powers off. He believes this so much that he sacrifices his own life to protect his son. Now that's my principles. See the difference there? It's like you deciding this is important, so I'm going to sacrifice my life to ensure this happens. Or I think this is important, so everyone should die and suffer because of what I believe. Yeah. Now in faith, the faith world, this is a 4 out of 5 because this is one of the most clear Christ-like characters that have ever been put to screen. A godlike being sent to earth for the sake of mankind, lives selflessly, not enforcing his will on anyone, and though he could, and spoilers ahead, ends up sacrificing his life to save people that reject him. Yeah. Sound familiar? There's also a great scene in the movie where Clark is reluctant of the responsibility and the burden that he's going to bear when he steps forward to be the Superman. It's almost like, let this cup pass from me moment. Also, when Clark is wrestling with what he should do, if he should be the Superman and sacrifice himself, he goes to a church and he talks about not doing it, not sacrificing himself out of reason or science or anything like that. It's out of faith. He just has to have faith in these people that they're going to make the right decisions. And then one of the reasons I go back to this film too is we always talk about wanting Hollywood to make more films that relate to us, that have our values. I think we should all take a look back. If these are values that you hold dear, that are precious to you, that you believe in, go give these kind of movies a second look. Don't listen to critics all the time. Go back and look at it for yourself, because every time you do, you cast a vote for what should be made next, for what actors should move forward and what projects they should take. Because every single week, you get to cast your vote as the viewers for what you want to see more of. So if you go to support movies like this, they're going to see like, oh, you know, we should make more movies like this. We should make more conservative, principled movies more often. Also, when you go back and get these DVDs and stuff, it really helps the actors and actresses as they choose roles in the future as well. All right, I cannot wait to continue my series into the DC universe to get ready for Justice League coming out in November. Next movie in the series is Batman v Superman. I know, right? I bet you can't wait to see me dig into this. It might not be what you expect, but to hear that, tune in next week for the next Real Rebel Review.